So with that, he said to me, don't text me or call me until that baby is born and I want a DNA test or a paternity test. And I was like, all right, okay. Like, I know the purpose of him saying he wanted a DNA test was to hurt my feelings or something like that. If a man genuinely believed that the baby wasn't his, he wouldn't have gone the fuck insane the way that he did the last 2 weeks. So it was really just like, I really don't know what else I can possibly say to you to hurt you. So, because I brought up your sons and you seem unfazed, let me just keep on carrying out that kid's probably not even mine. Do men know that this is so cliche and typical of them? Was that week later on in that week. And I was really thinking about the fact that he said paternity, he wanted a paternity test. Hey, to each his own, get it. But with the way that he handled everything, it started to like really make the wheels of my brain spin. So I was like, okay, let me get this straight. For some weird reason, given the way that you blocked me and ghosted me for days on end, something tells me that you are the type of man to sit here and in November tell all your family and friends and the courts that you had no idea I was pregnant, or that you didn't think that the baby was yours, therefore you didn't feel the necessary need to be present during my pregnancy or be assistive in any way. So I went online and I found a place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania that does paternity testing while you're pregnant. So I called them, we did a little consultation over the phone, and they said we need a $500 down payment, like deposit, to hold your date. And I was just like, do you take insurance? And they were like, no. So I was like, oh. How much is the paternity test altogether? And they told me it was $1,600. Now, me being so anxious at the time, and I'm irritated because, sir, how dare you? Just how dare you? Just how dare you? I called Asmodeus and I was like, hey, so I had to call him from a block number, but I was like, hey, so I found a place over here in Pennsylvania that will do the paternity testing while I'm pregnant. It's $1,600. I will put down the $500 now to hold the date, and you're gonna need to put down $800 and I'll pay the difference. We're gonna split the whole cost in half because you want a paternity test. And I'm not going to be all right if you sit here and waltz around in November after Thanksgiving and tell the world that you didn't know I was pregnant. Or that you assumed the baby belonged to someone else. For unknown reasons. So I was cool with it. I was like, it's a lot of money, but I'm cool with getting these results now. So you can't just sit up here and run the streets and drag my name and ring me ragged. And he did not respond. I was like, well, I mean, I kind of thought you wouldn't, but I actually also thought you would, because you're making this into such a huge deal. But wouldn't you want to know about the paternity of your child way beforehand? I was doing it to protect myself and my name and my credibility and my character, because you're not going to run around here and just sit up here and spin this bullshit narrative that you didn't know I was pregnant. And I really did. I was like, this man's gonna probably say this, he's gonna probably say that. These are just assumptions that I'm making in my mind based on his physical activities. I didn't schedule with this paternity place because I wasn't gonna put down all that money and then give him the information and this man never show up for testing, and I'm giving them hundreds of dollars. But what I did say to him is, I said, if you want to get this paternity testing done, please do let me know. I don't want to be swindled out of hundreds of dollars if you don't show up, because if I am, I'm going to just take those receipts to child support and ask the judge to bill them to you to reimburse me. So think about it, because I will do that. So since I knew that wasn't really an option anymore, I came up with this idea. So I carry the trait of sickle cell. And from my understanding, Asmodeus does not carry the trait of sickle cell. But this discussion happened just miscellaneously earlier in our relationship and unrelated to nothing. But I always feel, compelled and obligated to bring up that information to anybody that I'm in a relationship with. You know what I mean? It's prophylactic, if you will. I left him a voice message and I was just like, hey, I'm going to call my GYN and tell them that you don't know whether or not you carry the trait of sickle cell. Therefore, they can do the testing right then and there, because they'll run everything. A geneticist will run everything to see whether or not the baby's going to have sickle cell anemia. Now, I did know that he didn't have the trait, because I remember him telling me that he didn't have a trait. I was going to use it to my advantage to get my insurance to cover it all. He would just get a lab slip, and they would test him, and if the baby didn't have the trait, if the baby didn't have all the genetics necessary for him to end up with the disease, sickle cell anemia, I would know that Asmodeus was his father. Now, even though it wasn't going to be the actual paternity test, it was a way for me to prove that this baby is your baby. Now, I don't think he's smart enough to have put 2 and 2 together to actually think, like, well, it's not going to say that I'm any percentage the father. It'll just say that the baby doesn't have the trait of sickle cell. And that might be somebody else's baby still. They might just not have the trait of sickle cell. But he declined that too. And I'm pretty sure it was just to inconvenience me because he couldn't have his way. So he just wanted to make everything as complicated as possible. Following that, I did actually go for my full panel for the baby. And they did find the trait of sickle cell because I carry the trait. And they did request, hey, we want to get lab work done on the baby's father so we can ensure the baby's not going to have sickle cell anemia. So I was like, okay. And I made a TikTok about it too. And I was like, could you guys reach out to him? Because he actually blocked me and ghosted me. So after that final day that we had spoken, I hadn't heard from that man ever again. The lab said that my doctor would actually put the order together and send it out with the lab slip to Asmodeus so he could actually go and get tested. And of course, he was ignoring their phone calls, he ignored their emails, he ignored anything they sent into the mail. And the way that I got his address, or what I believed to be his address, was I reverse number searched his phone number. And the first address that popped up that I saw as active was the one that I used, and it was for New Jersey. But it did say that there was a woman that lived there under the same exact address. So that's made my eyebrow like raise a bit.